Welcome to Wizard World Virtual Experiences. I'm Jerry Milani, and today we have two of the stars of two of the iconic series, really, of the 1970s. And it's a franchise that has gone from being something on television, just science fiction royalty, to 30, 40, 50 years later almost. We're still talking about it in grand fashion. It has fan clubs and folks from all over the world who love the show. We'll get into that in just a minute. I want to remind everyone that if you're interested in a one-on-one chat, or autograph, or a private video, a recorded video from these stars, you can go to wizardworldvirtual.com. It has our schedule for all the events that are upcoming, as well as opportunities you can get for some of those extra, just a little bit extra. And we're going to have a great time today with these stars in our Q&A. We appreciate you joining us today for this free Q&A, and both these folks giving some of their time to do this. But it's going to really be a great 45 minutes. If you want a little bit more, go to wizardworldvirtual.com for those experiences. Coming up here on Wizard World Virtual Experiences over the next few days. In fact, today at 4 o'clock, we have some of the iconic cartoon characters of all time. We'll have those voices right here coming up at 4 o'clock Eastern time. On Monday, it's the stars of Napoleon Dynamite, which I'm sure you'll enjoy, including John Hader for that. Friday, we have Kieran Strange, a live concert that he is doing here. We met him yesterday on the Borderlands panel, and he is doing that on Friday. On September 9th, we have Billions, and September 13th, Bones. So a lot of great opportunities for you to enjoy the greatest in pop culture that we have coming up. And whether you're watching on Twitch or Facebook or YouTube right now, go ahead into the chat room right now. You can chat with your fellow participants, but also you have a chance to ask questions. We'll take as many of the best questions as we can and get those answered here during the next 45 minutes. Again, if you want the live video chats, the autographs, the recorded videos, those live chats are going to be on Tuesday. So if you're watching this on a replay the next couple of days here, you still have an opportunity until Tuesday to have those live video chats. Go to wizardworldvirtual.com. Well, right now I'm going to introduce two of the stars. Let me first just say where some of the folks are. There are literally countries all over the world that love this show, and it's reflected in who's watching right now. People have checked in from France, Israel, Italy, Germany, Canada, Mexico, Texas, New Orleans, Japan, Vegas, Oregon, Ohio, you name it. We've got someone watching right now, and they've checked in our chat room, and we appreciate you guys doing that right now. So he starred in The Big Valley and The Virginian, and later The Fall Guy, among more than 100 TV and film credits, a nearly 60-year career in Hollywood, wrapped around, of course, his most famous role, what we're here today for, Colonel Steve Austin in The $6 Million Man. Here is the legendary Lee Majors.
Hey, Jerry, how are you, my friend?
Lee, welcome back to Wizard World. I say welcome back because you've been a guest of ours a few times at shows.
Thank you, thank you. I feel like, I am in the Houston area. I feel like I'm in the capsule getting ready to take off here.
Well, we're excited about that. We're going forward with the side stick, huh? Exactly. So also Hollywood royalty. She's in almost 100 TV shows and films, everything from guest spots on huge hits like The Rockford Files and Marcus Welby, MD, to Hallmark movies, dozens of TV films. Of course, her most well-known role, Jamie Summers, in both The $6 Million Man and her own spin-off series, The Bionic Woman. Here is the great Lindsay Wagner.
Hey.
Welcome back also to you, Lindsay, as a Wizard World guest. It's been a little while since you've been at one of our shows, but you were also a guest for us a few times, so we appreciate that. Well, it's obviously great to see both of you guys. I'm in a couple of the fan groups, and they've been buzzing with excitement for this Q&A that's coming up, so we can't be more excited than we are to have you guys both here. Let me start with a question that's kind of open for you that you can kind of get going with. What do you think has made these series and these characters resonate with fans? I mean, it's 45, 50 years later, people are still loving this series and loving these characters. What made these series so great?
I want to say hi to Lindsay.
Yeah, say hi. Hi.
Well, if you want me to start, or would you like to start, my dear?
My thought that was just coming to me was that there's just a lot of heart in them both. Their action, and, you know, espionage and all that kind of stuff. But there was so much heart and humanity in it. And that's not always the case. It's usual, you know, these days it's a lot about adrenaline. And there was some then, of course, when they were little kids. And in those days, adrenaline was only about took this much to get the adrenaline going. Today, it's like you got to decapitate people to get the adrenaline going, and so they do. It was a different time. It was a kinder time, and I think we covered a lot of genres in one, as well as being for the kids, and the parents seem to love it. So
I also think it was a show that most families could watch together with their kids. There was no violent scenes in any of the shows. And we just had a wonderful time doing it. And I know I've heard from so many families that said they got together on whatever night it was and got around the TV, and it was something that they could all watch together. And we were very proud of that it was a family show.
and also the Bionic Woman was the groundbreaking show for women in a powerful role. Um, it was the first time it had been on TV. So as far as women were concerned, that was just a huge thing. And that's, I think there's a lot of sentimentality about that. And even by men. You know, I have had a lot of men tell me things as they've gotten older, because they didn't want to admit it as they were younger, that they used to watch the Bionic Woman, or they'd make an excuse to go home and be with tell their friends that they had to go babysit their little sister because they wanted to watch the Bionic Woman with her for real. That's why they went home. But that the show, and I was really moved by this, I must say, when a couple of people started telling me this, and that through that show, they've learned that strength and sensitivity can exist in the same person. Though I was a woman bringing it, adding the strength, which usually is related to a male, certainly in back in those days, up to that point in history, physical strength was a male thing. And so having that and the sensitivity kind of awakened, I think, in someone, hey, wait a minute, I can do that. Just to be strong. And so that was really a wonderful surprise when I started learning.
You also had the continuity of characters, even through the two different series. And I have a question here from @Tio and Tio asks, was Richard Anderson the best, or was Richard Anderson the very best?
Well, if you don't mind, I would say Richard Anderson was even very best. He was a sweetheart of a man, a wonderful actor. He made us feel good every time we came to work. He was such a classic guy. We called him Old Money because he was always dressed to the T. He looked good. But the only thing is, I would have liked to have had his job, dictating to Lindsay and I what mission we were going to be on, go out and do all this stuff. And then we come back in and he's behind his desk. And he says, good job. I would have liked that. I'm sure Lindsay would have too.
He didn't have to jump. Yeah. But you know what's funny? He was such a classy guy. Always, the way he dressed was like and his cars and the classic antique cars. But you'd see him on the set, and here he is, and he never wore socks. It's like he's got always in his suit, with this shirt and a tie, and you're sitting on the set, and his legs are stretched out while he's waiting for it to go on. And you look and it's like, Richard, you're not wearing any socks. I don't like socks. It's like, okay. It's like, it almost reminded me of those, that when artists in Asia and other cultures, I think Native Americans do it as well. When they do a beautiful piece of art, they always want to do something that isn't right, or that's a little broken or just quite off, because they say nothing in life is perfect. And if they're going to do art that represents part of life, that they want that to be like that. So that was his little tweak on not being so perfect.
He was a great tennis player, that's for sure. And I must say that I had just bought a new car. Finally was able to afford to buy a new car. And we were out one evening, and went out to dinner somewhere. We parked it in a place that probably not, it was near the restaurant, but whatever. But anyway, we came out and the car was gone. Somebody had stolen the car. But the only thing Richard was worried about is he left his umbrella in the car. And so for years and years and years, I would keep hearing him say, you know, I really miss that umbrella. So, but he was okay. We love him and we miss him so much.
Yeah, he was a frequent guest at Wizard World shows as well. And, you know, we're just people who work at Wizard World, but he made us all feel like we were the most important people. I got back from one of the shows and on my desk is a FedEx with the whole series. When you guys were coming out with the series, like the man was I love you guys, but he's my all-time favorite Wizard World guest.
Good for you.
To give you that. He is my all-time favorite, which is a good choice, as everyone has told me. So Lee, I have a question about the pilot or the pilot. So there was a pilot, and then there was another pilot, and then there was another pilot, and then you're the only one who was in all of them. What do you remember? What kind of went on there? Why did they take so many fits and starts to finally get this thing going?
Well, the first one, the pilot was probably 2 hours. All these were 2 hours, I think, and they were working out some logistics with the running. You know, when they first started out, you know, they sped up the camera. I mean, it looked like the Keystone Cops running around in the old days if you saw those films. And then they got it down to where we could do it in slow motion, and it looked really, really good. But I was always wondering that myself, because we did three movies before we went to series, and each of them were off the charts as far as ratings. And I just always wondered, oh, now you're going to go to series? And then if you know that we were on for I don't know, 5 or 6 years, 5 years or so. But then when we went off the air, there was 3 more movies made, 3 more, and they were all successful. So I don't really know why they took it off the air to begin with, or why they didn't put it on the air earlier. So that's all I have to answer to that question.
Yeah, and Lindsay, on your pilot, so it ended up being a backdoor pilot where the 2-part episode on $6 Million Man was featured on Bionic Woman, but they killed off Jamie. But this was 1975, so you couldn't go on Twitter and say you wanted it, or on Facebook. People had to call, people had to write, and they did. And you got a series out of it. Do you remember how that all kind of went down and how people made your show happen?
Yeah, well, it was twice when they killed her off. People wrote in and they were angry. That was the first time, because it really traumatized the kids. I mean, Steve Austin was kind of the Superman, if you will, of the previous generations of people, the quintessential male father figure, and then they created the female version of that. And then they killed it right in front of all these kids. And they were just traumatized. A lot of them, some of the letters even came from children's hospitals. There was someone from, I think, Boston's Children's Hospital, or one in New York. I can't remember who the other one was. But they were just talking about what irresponsible programming, and here's what happened to the kids, as well as all the parents that wrote in. So they needed to bring her back, and that's how Jamie ended up being a school teacher at the Air Force Base, because they wanted the kids to know that she was okay once they brought her back, but they still weren't going to put her on the series. We're going to keep her, because that just wasn't the franchise, that wasn't the formula of the show, to have a couple. And so they ended up making her a school teacher, which was smart, because then the kids felt like she was with them. And the amnesia was how she didn't have to be on his show all the time. Could be once in a while.
You were on separate networks, but also this show was, well, originally you weren't, but then at the end, but
that was the last
later
season.
At the very end, right? But also this show was for kids, right? I mean, you just said it. This show, it worked for adults, but it also worked for kids. So a lot of the other shows of the 70s, the cop shows and the lawyer shows, those were adult shows. And then you had your kid shows, but this, the whole family really could watch. I watched it when I was 7 and 8. I couldn't wait to get home to watch it.
Yeah. So that's when they brought her back again, was when now people wrote in because they liked it. And that's how the third thing happened, which was
I'm pretty sure one of those letters, ABC has one of those letters that I
May I say a few words before you leave that subject?
Please.
I think Lindsay knows this story a little bit, but I had finished the whole first season and started the second, and I said to the producers, and I said, we've gone so long and I haven't even had a love interest in the show. And I said, I'm tired of looking at the hairy leg crew guys that are working on the show. So they finally went and wrote me a love story. And they just was so happy, and they cast the right lady, and we had a good time. But the thing is, I didn't have anything to do with killing her off, though. So I'm certainly happy that they brought her back. I'm so proud of her that she went on and did her own series. She's a great lady and a wonderful actress and to work with. So, and we've worked with several times since then.
Yeah,
especially the reunion movie. So we did have a question from a few different folks asking about this. The reunion movies. What was your favorite of the reunion movies?
Well, let me start. Mine was the last one, because finally we got married in Charleston, South Carolina. And I thought that was a perfect ending. But then, Lindsay and I were talking long ago. I said, if they ever brought it back, we'd probably be doing it in an old age home somewhere.
Well, the thing is, about the reason there was a wedding in that one was because when they came to me and said they wanted to do a third one, I said, I won't do it unless we get married in it. Because I said, you cannot.
You forced my marriage, huh? You forced the marriage on me. All right. I'm so happy though you did.
You just can't, you can't keep dragging this generation of people through this unrequited thing for, everybody's waiting for this to happen. So I'll keep doing them, but you gotta get them married first.
Lindsay, why don't you tell them about the one we did in Canada with an unknown actress that was trying to be the next Bionic Woman?
Yeah. Yes. Guess who that is, Jerry?
You want to tell them that story?
Tell us the story.
Actress we were working with. Nobody knows who that was.
Well, you're talking about
Sandra?
Yeah, sorry, Sandra Bullock. Yeah, she was just a young actress that had done a few little parts and hadn't done anything very big. And she came on the show and was hired to perhaps become the next Bionic Woman, the next generation. And so she was the guest star of that whole show, and we went through it. And then at the end of it, the studio, we were all going, she's good, she's natural, she's young, she'll get even better because she's just starting. And they just said, nah, we don't think she can carry a series. That was the studio.
Oops.
Sandra Bullock cannot carry a series.
Right. And we were going, no, we kept rooting for her. Look at you. That was just crazy. Also, there was a funny thing happened in the filming. Well, there's two funny things, but the one that stands out in my mind was she was kind of so green that she wasn't, when you're on camera and you're doing it over the shoulder, and the person whose shoulder is the camera's going over toward you, if they aren't aware, they will start leaning on natural body thing. We kind of do that when we don't realize we're doing it. We started leaning into the camera, and when you are a seasoned actor, you can usually catch that from your perspective and it. So you stay your character and you just start leaning with them, right? So that you don't have to do the darn scene again. And it was late and I didn't want to do it. And so when I leaned, somehow she just entrained with my mind and she started leaning more because I was leaning. And now she's leaning, I'm leaning, and I didn't want to do the scene again. So I kept doing the dialogue. And by the time they said cut, the whole crew just fell out because everybody saw it. happening, and everybody started laughing, and she's like, what? She didn't even know what was funny. It was so cute that we told her she was embarrassed. There's no be embarrassed. We all go through that at one point or another, and then you learn.
So that was Christian Craig, at Christian Craig, who gave us that question. Thank you, Christian. We have a few people ask this question. Mia, Sarah, John Villas is similar questions. They want to know if you guys preferred Andre the Giant or Ted Cassidy as Bigfoot. And what did each of them bring to the role as a little bit different?
Oh, without a doubt, Andre the Giant for me. And I'll do a quick story, but I had to do a fight with him, which lasted all day. It was a very, very hot day out in the woods. And he had to, the scene was where he would pick me up and throw me and then come running towards me and then jump in and land on me. Okay. Well, he threw me a little bit further than I thought he was going to. And then I'm laying there, and all of a sudden the sun disappeared. It was dark, and I figured I'm about to get crushed. When he landed on me, he never touched me. I swear. He's such a professional wrestler. That's how great he was. But then when we say cut, we would go over to our chairs, and we always had a 6-pack of beer ready for him. He would take each beer, drink it down, crush the can. 6 times he did that. And he would do it just about all day long. But the only thing is, it always amazed me. I never saw him go to the bathroom.
Here's the inside story right here.
I got to tell you, that suit smelled horrible. It's not like it was fresh made for that character.
No, it's probably hard to dry clean that in between takes.
I wouldn't want to have been the wardrobe lady who had to do that suit every day.
It was great just to wear.
So we have, well, we got questions from folks, you know, a lot of them beforehand, a lot of them are in the chat rooms now, and we just appreciate everybody, you know, being with us. John Bradbury asks, for both of you, for Lee, what was your favorite part of the series that you enjoyed doing the most? And same to Lindsay for you on Bionic Woman and the crossovers.
Well, John, the best part for me was actually doing all the stunt work. We had, we were fighting every day, but the locations were terrible. We'd be shooting in empty factories, empty utility plants. It was so desolate. Fighting the $7 million man, John Saxon, all day long too. But after a while, but I'm going to tell you, it was a very, very physical show. I'm sure Lindsay can tell you that. And if you're running towards camera from 50 yards away, and you go by camera and they say cut, and they say, well, we have to do it again. You're out of focus. And on about the 5th time after you've done that, you kind of look at the focus guy and you say, look, if you don't get it this time, you're not going to get it, period. So you better get this thing in focus. But the fights stuff, now I guess I can say I wish I had used my stuntman more at my age now, because I just had both knees replaced last year. Oh, and just had the cataract surgery on one eye. Thank God it wasn't my bionic eye. But all those stunts, you come to feel them many years later. So that was my part of the show. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Not my favorite part of the show. I was the running and everything. I used to say that I think God brought me the Bionic Woman to punish me because I refused to exercise. And so it's like, okay, I'll get you one way or the other. So I would drive to the mailbox if I could have. But I think for me it was there was just a lot about it. It's funny, I never thought about what was my favorite thing or my favorite part.
Well, let me focus it a little then. Did you have a favorite storyline that kind of went on? Mike Dolan asked me a question about that. Favorite storyline or what happened in the series?
Well, you know, I love kids and I loved working with the kids. I mean, there was a lot of things that I liked about the shows. I had one of my favorite shows was one that I worked very closely with Kim Johnson on. It was biofeedback, because you know, I'm a meditator. I have been since I was 19, and So the body, mind, and spirit connection, the ability that we have to heal our body with our mind and transcend what we think we are is always has been a big part of my life and was when I was doing the Bionic Woman. So that show was really important to me, that particular one, the storyline of it.
That's neat. Nancy McCants had a similar question as well to that, so we appreciate Nancy with that. So Kimberly's Corner, on the same realm, but maybe a little different. What was your favorite Bionic feature? And did you have a feature that you wish you had as a Bionic that you didn't have in the show?
If you ask my kids, they'll say she did have a bionic ear. She did have exceptional hearing. And they could never get away with anything, or whispering in the house or whatever. It's like, how did you hear that? So, yeah, favorite part. Yeah. Funny, I don't even think about it. It's just like you just do it. People used to say to me, boy, I wish I had that, or I wish I could run like that. Or like I hear that all the time. It's like, yeah, well, come out here with me in July and we'll go running across those fields that we have to run in the middle of the heat and the sweating. I passed. I wasn't very good. Lee was an athlete. I was not an athlete, as I just confessed. But, and so sometimes I'd actually get like almost pass out when we were working in some of the areas that we worked because it was just so hot and relentless, and we were out there all day long. So that was tough. That was a tough part for me.
Yeah.
We had a great crew though. Loved the people working together and fun and a lot of laughter. And we didn't have to focus on heavy stuff, doing a lot of drama, which is what I ended up doing subsequently. But so it was fun and funny.
Lee, did you have a favorite attribute? Did you like the eye better or the running? What was kind of your favorite part of that Bionic?
Well, the running was okay. The running was okay, except after you've done it for 7 or 8 takes. Another thing is, back in the 70s, we had these 70s designs and clothing, and naturally they were bell bottoms, which were about a foot long at the bottom. And try running through the woods with that flapping in the breeze, catching on every branch that it could. And I probably fell down many times just because of that. So that wasn't, but I wish I had her bionic ear now and could use that now a little bit better. But I don't know. I'm glad I had them all. I could have had a few more. Maybe a brain chip, make me smarter.
Want to remind everyone that if you're watching live or on the replay and you're interested in the live video chats or the autographs or the recorded videos, go to wizardworldvirtual.com. It'll have the schedules for the upcoming events, but also this Tuesday coming up at 2:00 Eastern, we're going to have the live video chats, the one-on-one video chats, opportunities with Lee and Lindsay. You won't want to miss those. You can get both of them. So you can go in there and the autographs, the recorded videos as well that they'll do for you after. That's a great opportunity to just do a little bit more. We're having a lot of fun today and we're getting to a lot of questions, but there's so much we're not going to get to. And we want to hopefully get everyone a chance to get some time. Jeff Healy 8 at Jeff Healy 8 wants to know who some of your favorite guest stars were. There were always great guest stars on the programs. Who were some of your favorites?
Wow, there was a lot. Should have asked me that a few years ago before I got to be this age, and I can't remember names.
Well, here's one just for example. We could talk about John Saxon, who we just recently lost last month. He was in a couple episodes, Lee, and he played an evil villain, and he played a friend who was a villain in one of the episodes. Also, it turned out to be a dual role. Talk either about him or someone else that kind of is important to you guys for the show.
Well, yeah, I mentioned John a few minutes ago because it was the $7 million man where they made him up as a robot also, and we had to fight all day again. They loved for Steve Austin to fight all the time, and throw people around. But we just had so many wonderful guest people. It's hard to. It's such a blur now, if you know what I mean. A lot of people that I can't think of now, but
Vito's, Vito's
Yeah, I
Scotty.
mean, you had the Eric Brains, you had a lot of those character actors who you saw on a lot of 70s shows, and I thought they brought a lot to what we had here. I have another question here, a comment and question from Adam Bretag. Adam says, Lindsay and Lee, thanks so much for a wonderful childhood. Your characters were like surrogate parents and role models for many of us at a certain age. Do you realize the influence you had on children growing up? Did you realize it in the moment, and do you realize it now?
Well, in the moment, we were hoping. We were just doing our best to do something that we thought was good and inspiring and for kids, but also meaningful and, you know, showing more their personal potential rather than just, you know, looking at people as more human beings rather than the good guy and the bad guy, which is kind of just too narrow of a scope, especially since TV was just becoming a thing. I mean, you know, television isn't that old. Kids today have no clue that people didn't grow up, anybody alive didn't grow up with television. And it's, so it was becoming a big thing, and that was very important to me. It was watching more and more and more. It was becoming a huge influence on the development of children's minds. So that kind of thing was very important about it.
When we do the shows, we always have a lot of people in our lines that say that they grew up watching us, and they're adults now, and they're also, some of them would say that's why they went into the military. That's why they became a pilot. We have them saying that that's why they went into the medical, being doctors and surgeons and stuff. And a lot of tech people, technology people got into technology with that. And of course, we always ask them, well, I hope you didn't get hurt when you were little, trying to jump off the front porch or the barn or something. But then sometimes they say, well, I did break my arm trying to be Steve Austin. But it's such a great honor and a real treat to hear from these people. And I think Lindsay can tell you that we probably didn't know how famous the show or how much it was watched when we were doing it, actually, because it's only in the last 10, 15 years where I've been able to travel around the world and go to places to where I didn't even know they had TV back then, and realized how far this show reached. You know, hundreds and hundreds of countries. So we're very honored by that. We're proud of the fact that we were able to provide some entertainment.
Yeah, I think everyone I knew when I was growing up had this lunchbox. There's the lunchbox, and you know, and they also had the action figures. So tell the action figures. First of all, do you guys have any of the action figures still? And do you know anyone who didn't have the action figures?
Well,
I understand the Bigfoot.
I didn't know anybody who had the action figures because I was working. We're a little older than you, so our friends weren't.
I assume Lindsay and I both didn't even know how much merchandise was out there that they had put out, because back then we never get to approve it or anything. And believe me, we don't get a penny off of that, do we, Lindsay? So, and people come up with the dolls and lunch boxes and rocket ships and all kinds of things for us to sign, and we go, oh, there's something I've never seen before. And I'm sure Lindsay's had to do that too. And there's still, the doll has gotten smaller, as I see. It used to be like a foot, and then the last ones I've signed were down about 6 inches. So they keep getting smaller and smaller. It's almost like the Fall Guy truck. I signed it. It's shrunk from a 1.5-foot truck down to about 8 inches of truck right now. So merchandise we don't control. We don't get anything from it, but we will sign it for you, which is always fun.
And everyone, I know everyone has had one. So Carlotta Barber has a question relayed. A couple other people had similar, but her question was that she noticed that some of the episodes had similar storylines. Then you had the crossover episodes. Did you guys share scripts a lot? Did Lindsay, when you were doing Bionic Woman, did you know what was happening over on the other show, and where there might be a chance where it crossed over again?
Well, I didn't know what was going on if I wasn't in it. But I know in the very beginning, because it was so unexpected, Ken Johnson and the whole production team, they didn't have time to prep a series. They had to hit the ground running. And so they were trying to revamp some of the storylines that they already had for Lee and just kind of put a new face on it for the first, some of the first few. And then they got in a groove and were creating new stuff. But yeah, we were contractually obligated to do, what was it, 2 a season, Lee? Was it two, me do 2 of his and him do 2 of mine? So we knew they were coming. It was just part of what they were.
We not only did crossovers, we were doing our own shows at the same time because the stages were relatively close. So I would finish a scene on my show and then run over to her show, change my clothes, and do a scene with her. She did the same thing. We're back and forth. And we understand that because to get her started, her show started off with a bang. That with crossovers made it a little more popular for her, and we're just so glad that she went on to carry it herself, and she did a great job.
And there were crossovers before, kind of, but not really. Like this $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman crossovers. There were storylines that I think one of the Bigfoot ones went from one to the other, back to the other for the third part. Like you really had to be interested in both. And I think almost everyone who enjoyed the $6 Million Man also loved the Bionic Woman and back and forth. But I think that was part of, what made both series so successful is that they, even though you had independent storylines, everyone was following both. And again, it was during a time where, you only had the 3 or 4 shows on. You better be a good show. Otherwise they're going to replace you with something else. Kin from the UK, another one, had some good questions. We had Jay, West Virginia. He has a question for Lee. He wants to know, being the character was an astronaut, have you become familiar with astronauts, and what was it like filming at Kennedy Space Center for some of those episodes?
Well, we filmed at Cape Canaveral.
Canaveral.
And I had the opportunity to to be in the facility exactly where the astronauts suited up. The same people that suited up the real astronauts suited me up in one of the same suits, and gave me my little handheld air so that I could breathe once they got you in that thing. And then they take you out and they put you in a van, and the van would take me out to the launch pad. And it's you're the only one in the van, and there's glass, you could look out. And I'm thinking, this is the last thing that these astronauts are going to see. Maybe, you don't know. And I just felt how nervous they must have been. I know that I was nervous, and I wasn't going anywhere. And then when we went up into the capsule, we went up by elevator. We were doing a scene where we get into the seats, and then smoke starts coming in, and then we have to evacuate quickly. And there's only 3 ways to do that. One is the elevator, which is very, very slow. The next one is there's a thing out the side with a zip line on it, and it's a basket. You jump in the basket and it'll take you a half a mile away pretty quick. But the quickest one, as soon as you get out of the capsule door, there is a hole in the wall, so to speak. And you go feet first down that thing, and it swerves around and around and around, and you come out into a small room, which they call the rubber room, because it's all padded with rubber. And I actually did that. And it was kind of fun. You could spread your knees out so you can control your speed. The first time I did that, and the second time I went a little faster. Then I took a camera down on my stomach, and so they could get a great shot at it. But they also told me that a lot of astronauts had some legs broken by coming out of that chute and hitting the wall on the other side. But they went as fast as they could, and it was pretty dangerous for them just to practice that. So.
And Lindsay, Sue Parnell has a question for you. And Sue she says, heading into sunrise Sunday morning in North Queensland, Australia, at the point that she wrote this to us. She was binging on the show, getting ready for this. And she noticed one thing in particular. She wanted to know if you ever read a script and thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to get bed sores, because you spent so much time in some of those early episodes in the hospital bed. Was that a concern of yours or a thought when that was going on?
No, not really. You know, it's the amount of time that you see in your mind. Let's see, how do I explain that? It's a mental illusion. You watch me being in bed for weeks in the show, but all of those scenes probably took a day and a half to shoot. Very different experience for you than it is for me.
I got to say one thing, that when I had my both knees replaced this past year, my surgeon got quite a thrill out of that. And he said, I can't believe I grew up watching, and now I am replacing the bionic knees. And so I just hope that there wasn't any jokes made while I was out and during the surgery. I'm sure they had a good time with that. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, we've had so many great questions from folks. Eric Shores wants to know, Lindsay, and you mentioned this at the very top, you talked about it, but maybe if you want to talk a little more, female action series leads, they were very rare in the 1970s. Did you feel any extra responsibility or pressure because of that? And look what it's led to, all the great series that have come since.
Well, there weren't any. I mean, there were like, there were a couple of women as police officers.
Wonder Woman.
No, she was after Bionic.
Oh, really?
No, we were the first. We were the first woman having the lead. Whereas you have the women with two cops on either side of her, two male cops. That was the formula. It was women would be involved in a man's role, typical man's role. And so, yes, I mean, I felt pressure. I felt that's one of the reasons I wanted to do the show. I really didn't want to do a series. I was starting to do features, and I wanted to go into that area of filmmaking. But this was such an opportunity to talk to kids and to be able to put a woman in a man's role. And again, culturally at that time, it was a huge issue. Huge. It was the beginning of the women's movement, the shift of how we perceive ourselves and what we do with our lives. And so I was very happy to be able to be in a show where I could express some of my thoughts about it and create a character that wasn't a man in a skirt, because she's got a job where she's strong. and I worked very closely with Ken Johnson on the stories, so that we could express it in a way that I felt represented more of what a woman might do or how she might handle a situation like that. It was just be too easy to write everything you wrote for any man that ever started an action show and just have it be a girl. And so it was very consciously addressed.
Yeah, it definitely shows when you watch the series that that they did make that effort to make it be that many of the same things that go on in those series, it's incidental to whether your character was a woman or a man. There are some things obviously that that were not, but that's a pretty good thing. There was a lot of comments we've had in the chat rooms right now about the fembots. Those episodes involve both of you guys. Do you remember the fembots episodes, and did you enjoy doing those?
Did not enjoy wearing that costume, I'll tell you. Those high heels. Plus, we were shooting in a place that was for real, but it wasn't filled with people. There was no audience. It wasn't filled with people. It was just like a meat hanger. It was freezing in there. High heels, freezing, hardly any clothes on. That giant thing on my head. Wasn't my favorite episode to film, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, that was one that was a crossover that went to both. So we just have a couple minutes left. I want to give you guys an opportunity now, just kind of open the floor to each of you to talk about either projects you're working on or some causes you're involved with, or anything that's important to you that you want to let the fans know right now before we sign off. We'll start with you, Lee.
Oh, well, as you know, and as everybody knows, that our industry has been shut down, so there's not too many projects going on yet. I just hope that this thing ends soon and everybody stays safe and healthy. And it's just a trying thing. And also, with everything else that's going on in our country, I just hope that we get some answers and some peace soon. And also, I'd like to give a shout out to a 10-year-old friend of mine up in Maine. His name is Thomas. There's that. And not to have the people to remember the virtual chats on Tuesday. Look forward to having some more conversations and more one-on-one time with these people, because and it's kind of thing with so many people in the panel, it's a little different, but the one-on-one chats will be more fun, we hope.
For sure. And Lindsay, for you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel very much, of course, I echo everything he was saying about people and being able to connect again. It's been a long time, and it's going to be different because we shake hands and but I've been working on. I'm the president of the board of ICANN and Associates, which is an organization, the Interagency Council of Child Abuse and Neglect. And I've been working with them for 33 years. But shortly, we're going to have one of the projects that we do every year is there's a county-wide poster contest in junior highs, and where there's a little program about child abuse and geared towards the kids, and what their job, what they have the opportunity to do is make posters. They paint, draw posters of what would they want to say to our community. What do they want to say? What do they want to talk about? What aspect of that do they want to talk about? How do they want to talk about it? So it gives them a chance to kind of use art to express themselves on this issue. And then those posters, we kind of have a little bit of a when I say contest, I don't have to say contest, but this whole structure. There's runner-ups and winners for the best, most active, which includes not just the ability to draw, but their ability to communicate through art. And then the posters, we do lots of different things with them. But for the first time, and we've kind of been pushed into it, but we're going to continue to do this, I think, as an organization. Because of the shutdown, we have been, we're making a video instead of just having the ceremony that we usually have in person. We're actually doing a whole video. So you'll be able to see on ICANN for Kids, or just look for the ICAN. And it's not ready yet, but it'll be up, I think, hopefully by October, certainly by November. The video that we're making, which is now going to, you'll see the whole poster, kids that did it, you'll see a bunch of the posters that they do, and it's very exciting. You can learn a little bit about ICANN too.
That's fantastic, and I'm sure fans will continue to follow you on your Twitter, on social media. You'll have updates on that. What's the best social media for you, Lindsay?
Well, it's lindsaywagner.com and Lindsay.
Yeah, you'll find. I know that you're check marked and you have an official a Twitter feed, so folks can find things there and can find Lee as well. So, wow, the 48 to 50 minutes here flew by as we knew they would. Lots of great questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to everyone. Dale Long, Junior Reed, Cloessi, a couple other folks that didn't get their questions in, but we appreciate you being with us today and being on here, and for us, the opportunity, everyone here to speak with Lee and to speak with Lindsay and have you guys just kind of talk a little bit about the series. I can't tell you how much folks appreciate. We've done about 100 of these at Wizard World since we started back in March, not having shows live. And this was a blast. I mean, personally, of course, for me, it was a blast, but just from seeing what's in the chat rooms, lots of exclamation points, lots of emojis. So we hope everyone just gives us out one more kind of round of applause, one more round of emojis for Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner. Reminder, fans, if you want that extra opportunity for those one-on-ones, the live video chats, they're coming up on Tuesday. So you've got between now and Tuesday to go to wizardworldvirtual.com to purchase those, to get the autographs, to get the recorded videos. Those are all available at wizardworldvirtual.com, as well as the additional upcoming events we have today at 4 o'clock in just an hour or so. If you stay with us, iconic cartoon characters from all time. The voices will be on right here, and we'll have a great time with that. So again, for Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner, thank you so much for joining us today on Wizard World Virtual Experiences, and we'll see you again really soon. Thanks, you guys.